Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if issei was last grimoire user instead of Drake? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Collins7781 writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story. Link in the description. The story starts off with a 10-year-old boy by the name of Issei Hayata. He is training in his backyard with his big brother Eric, who is older by 5 years. As they were training there, Mom came running out of their house. Scared, she ran towards them and said, "You two, we need to go now," said their mom. "What's the matter, Mom? Why do we need to go?" "What's happening?" asked Eric. "It doesn't matter. We need to go now," answered their mom. "Eric, I'm scared," said Issei. "It's okay, Issei. I won't let anything happen to you, but we need to go," said Eric. As the three were running, they saw their father/husband fighting a fallen angel with 6 pairs of wings. Issei watched as his father, the person he thought was unbeatable, died right in front of him. His father's lifeless body fell to the ground with thud. "No!" the three yelled. Issei watched as the fallen angel charged at the three of them. Issei's brother exploded with magic. Eric, being the oldest, was deterred to make sure his mother and his younger brother escaped safely. So, he charges at the fallen angel with one mighty pooch. He sent the fallen flying to the other side of the compound. With Eric fighting the fallen angel, Issei's mom grabbed Issei and started to run as fast as she could. She almost made it out of the compound until Eric came crashing next to them. Eric had a pair of black wings in his hands. He dropped the wings and got ready to fight. Eric was smiling. He had blood leaking down his head. "You'll also like Issei." After being belittled by his friends in the occult research club, Issei snapped at them for being hypocrite, then ran from the club and went to his dead family's old. The fallen angel came flying over to them. He was missing his left arm, and his right leg was broken. It was bent the complete wrong way. The fallen angel was hesitant about grinning at the again. "What's the matter, Mr. Fallen Angel? Don't want to charge at us again and get your ass kicked again," said Eric. The fallen angel didn't say anything. All he did, he just disappeared from Eric's sight. He soon reappeared behind Eric and punched Eric's head off. While Eric was talking to the fallen angel, Issei and his mom was running, but they didn't get fairy before Issei's mom got her leg cut off and dropped Issei. Issei stood up only to see his mother with many light spears in her back. The last thing Issei saw before he passed out was a light spear going through his mom's head. He started to fall, but before he hit the ground, he was caught by a devil with crimson hair and blue eyes. "I'm sorry, nephew, I couldn't get here faster, but don't worry, I'll average your family," said the man. The man stood up after putting Issei down and started to release a red aura that's around his body. This scared the fallen angel. "Zex, Lucifer, why are here?" asked the fallen angel. "You don't need to worry about that because you'll be dead soon," answered Zex. "No, I can't die here, it's too early, I need to leave," thought the fallen angel. The fallen angel threw a light spear in front of Zex, hitting the ground, making a smokescreen, and when the dust settled, the fallen was gone. Zex let the fallen leave. His only concern is Issei and getting him to a safe place. Zex picks up Issei and walked back to Issei's house to put Issei in bed. Time rewind to the point Issei passed out. As Issei loses consciousness, he was brought into his Mindscape to find a knight in black and red armor. "I was wondering when you were going to show up." "Hello, Lord Issei," said the knight. "We are in your mind, Issei, and my name is Enma. I'm your sacred gear," answered Emma. "I have a sacred gear. That awesome. Weight is happening to my body right now," asked Issei. "Your body is fine, Zex. Lucifer, the leader of the devils, came and protected you from the fallen angel," answered Emma. "That's right, Uncle Zex was visiting today." "But why am I really here?" said Issei. "To be honest with you, I'm not sure, because you're too physically weak to summon me. It looks like you're waking up. Goodbye for now. When you wake up, tell Zex I said hi," said Emma. Issei faded from his Mindscape and woke up in his bed. He quickly sat up and ran out of his room to run into Zex in the hallway. Zex got down on one knee to get on Issei level and hug him. "I'm sorry, Issei, I didn't arrive sooner, because if I did, would have saved your family," said Zex. Issei didn't say anything, but he just started to cry in his uncle's arms. "It's okay, Issei, I'll take care of you. Do you want to live with me in the underworld, or do you want to live here?" asked Zex. "I want to stay here, but I would like your help with one thing. Can you help me bury my family?" answered Issei. "Okay, you can stay here. I'll send someone here to help you, and yes, I'll help you bury your family," said Zex. Time skip 1 hour. Issei is praying in front of the graves of his family. He finished and walked back with Zex to his house. Time skip 13 years. For the first 5 years he trained with Zex to get as strong as he could before went off on his own to train and gain battle experience. And during a hard training session he finally summoned his grimoire. By the end of the 5 years he finally became strong enough to summon Enma, his sacred gear, and on his 15th birthday Zex gave Issei a gift, and that gift was his own evil pieces. Zex said that they were made for him specifically so he can have a peerage. Issei left his compound and stated to his own life. The next 5 years he became a mercenary. He was also slowly gaining peerage members. He has a queen, 1 rook, and 1 knight. His queen's name was Jin. She was the only other grimoire user that he knew was alive. She was Issei's best friend. She's the one that taught Issei how to use his grimoire, and how to use magic more effectively. His rook was named Sanji. Issei met him during a job he had working in a kitchen. He's the one that taught Issei how to fight with his feet and how to cook. His knight was named Zoro. Issei met him while he was looking for someone to teach him how to use a sword. He's the one that taught Issei how to use a sword and to use a magic called hockey. The four traveled together for 4 years until the day after Issei's 20th birthday. They were given a job by Odin, and on that day the four of them disappeared for a year. Issei returned on his 21st birthday with a second grimoire covered in dried blood and his 3 evil pieces and 1 sword that was cracked. For the remaining year Issei gained more peerage mates. He also got engaged to Sona Siri. Plus, Issei is currently a 3rd-year collage student and co-academy. He's currently sitting on the roof of the school. Issei skipping class on the roof of the school. He's eating chocolate until a girl with white hair and hazel eyes came and joined him on the roof, and her name is Kaneko. Kaneko walked over to Issei and sat on his lap. Issei gave her a homemade chocolate bar. "Hello Kaneko, how is your day going? Do you want to come over for dinner?" said Issei. "Not so good. Risa is on one today, and I would love to come over for dinner as long as you're cooking," said Kaneko. "What's that supposed to mean, Kaneko? You don't like my cooking, and for you Issei, why are you skipping class again?" said a female voice. The voice came from the entrance to the roof. The two looked at the open door hoping they're hearing things, but their worst nightmare came true when a girl with black hair styled in a short bob cut and violet eyes walked out. "Oh, I mean nothing by it, Sona, but being honest, you're not the best cook," said a scared Kaneko. "I'm skipping class because it's boring, and also I've been investigating why a group of fallen angels has taken up residence to the abandoned church outside of town," said Issei. This surprised Sona because she didn't know that there were fallen angels in her territory. "What do you mean? I or Rias would have sensed them and dispatched them," said Sona. "They are hiding themselves pretty well, so I'm not surprised, but I suspect Rias knows about them and are leaving them alone, or maybe has a deal with them," said Issei. "Why would she make a deal with fallen angels?" asked Sona. "Well, it's probably got to with that new transfer student that came from America. I think his name was John, but one of the fallen have been stalking him since he arrived in town," answered Issei. "Rias wants him in her peerage. She's been ordering Kiba and I to stalk him after school," said Kaneko. "Really, we can worry about that later." Sona walked Kaneko home after school because I'm heading out to say hi to our unwanted friends, said Issei. Issei jumped away and headed towards the church. Sona and Kaneko, on the other hand, are leaving the roof to go to class. Time skip 5 minutes. Issei arrived at the church. Before he entered the church, he sensed someone near the door, so he jumped onto the roof. When the door opened and Rias walked out and used the teleportation circle to leave, Issei smiled because he knew that Rias was here because he's been watching this church for about 2 months to monitor the actions of fallen angels, and the same time every week Rias comes and goes from this church. Issei jumped down from the roof. When he landed, he walked over to the bag he had stashed by a tree a week ago. He grabbed a mask and a different pair of clothes. He walked into the forest and charged into the new clothes and put on the mask and walked out of the forest in his new outfit. "It's been so long since I have worn this outfit. The last time I wore them I was still a mercenary," thought Issei. He doesn't have a cigarette, too. With his new outfit he walked into the church, but before he could get far, multiple light spears coming at from the back of the church. Issei quickly summoned Emma and infused it with dark magic and hit them out of the sky. It surprised the fallen angels that threw them because they didn't know that was possible. "Is that all you guys got? Because if it is, then you're going to die," said Issei. Issei continued to walk towards the 4 fallen angels, continues to cut down light spears coming towards him. With each step closer gets, the more fear the 4 fallen feel. Issei gets close enough to them for one of the fallen angels recognize him. "Wait, that mask and the dark ominous aura coming off him, that can't be. That's Yami," said a male fallen angel. "You're correct, I'm Yami, the leader of Black Bulls," said Issei. Issei continues to walk towards them until he gets a phone call. Ring asterisk. "Let me get this," said Issei. Issei jumped out of the hole in the roof. "Wait, did he really stop this fight for a phone call?" said a female fallen angel. "I guess so. Let's take this opportunity to escape with our lives," said a second female fallen angel. After about 5 minutes, Issei watched as the 4 fallen angels fly away from the church. He could have stopped them, but he decided not to, and it's getting close to the time Sona and Kaneko to come home. He needs to get home to start making dinner. After about 30 minutes of shopping and walking home, he got another phone call, and this one was from some he wished he would never hear from again. "Hello," said Issei. "Hello, Issei, it's been a year since we last talked," said. Issei didn't say anything, but he was angry. "What's the matter, Issei? Don't want to talk to me after I did so much for you?" said. You didn't do anything for me, you just took from me. Just hope I don't see you ever again, because if I do, I'll do more than just rip your eye out. I'll kill and feed your corpse to the wolves, said Issei. Issei hung up the phone and continued to walk back to his house. Issei shot a small fire spear into the raven that has been following his for the past 10 minutes. Issei walked back into his house, really mad, only to see two people sitting in his living room. The two people were Surzex Lucifer and Seer Seraphal Leviathan. Surzex stood up and then tried to walk over to Issei, only to be stopped because Issei is giving off a lot of bloodlust. Seraphal was having a hard time breathing. Surzex walked back to Seraphal. He sat down and gave Seraphal a cup of tea he had made for Issei and put a hand on her shoulder to calm her down. Issei walked into the kitchen and started to make dinner. I suggest you wait to tell Issei that the engagement is off between him and Sona, because if you tell him now he'll kill you and I won't be able to stop him in time when he's like this. I didn't even want to fight him, said Surzex. What do you mean that you won't be able to stop him if he tried to kill me? Asked Seraphal. Well, I've only seen him like this one other time, and it took me and Azazel to stop him from killing a devil that talked about his previous peerage mates, and he still killed him even with me and Azazel holding him back, answered Surzex. Seraphal was going to say something, but Surzex stopped her because there was a sudden spick and bloodlust behind them. After about 10 minutes he calmed and he walked out of the kitchen to see why their two devils were there. We last left off with Issei calming down enough to talk to the two devils that were in his house. Issei walked out of the kitchen to see why the two devils were in his living room. Now that I'm not trying to kill anybody, why are you two here? Asked Issei. I'm here to ask you to save Rias from marrying Riser Phoenix, answered Surzex. Issei thought for a second, then he agreed. I'll do it under one condition. I want my father's grimoire that you took from his dead body, said Issei. I knew you were going to ask for his grimoire, so brought it anyway, said Surzex. Surzex hands Issei a red grimoire with a 3-leaf clover. Why do you even need this? I thought grimoires became useless after the user dies, asked Surzex. Well, you're right, mostly normally a grimoire will become useless when the user dies, but I found out the previous user of my grimoire had a spell that could copy the contents of any grimoire that compatible with my dark magic. But before I continue, why are you here? Lady Leviathan, answered Issei. I'm here to let you know that you're no longer engaged to my sister, and if you want to change that then you'll have to go through me, said Seraphal. After she said that, the air around them went cold. A dark purple aura surrounded Issei. Even though Issei is weaker than her, she still found it hard to breathe. Oh really, I'll have to go though as you well. This is going to be fun, said Issei. Issei summoned Enma but was stopped by Surzex. Issei looked at Surzex and even sent a shiver down his spine. You can't fight here, you guy can fight 2 weeks from today when Issei crashes the wedding between Rias, Sona and Riser, said Surzex. Issei calmed down a bit, letting his aura fade away and unsummoned Enma. Issei then walked into his kitchen to start cooking dinner, but before he started he looked to the two and glared at Seraphal. You guys can go now. Also Seraphal, if you force Sona back with you to the underworld, I'm going to hunt you down and personally make sure that your life is a living hell. Got it, said Issei in a more deadly tone. Seraphal did say anything, but Issei knew that she got the picture. Surzex and Seraphal then left, and Issei continued to cook until Sona and Kaneko arrived. He changed his clothes before Sona got home. Issei, I'm so glad you're okay. When my sister showed up at school and told me that we're no longer engaged and I'm going to marry Riser, I got scared that she might have done something to you, said Sona through tears. It's okay, Sona, I'm not going anywhere, and don't worry about the Riser thing, it will be handled in a week. And Kaneko, how's school? Did Rias do anything to you when you're leaving, said Issei. School was good, boring but fun, but Rias was not happy that I was coming over here. She did tell Akino to punish me for leaving, so I'm hurt, but it's nothing that I can walk off, said Kaneko. Issei, after hearing this, walked over to the living room to where his father's grimoire was and grabbed it. He opened his and cast a spell to heal Kaneko. Healing flame, said Issei. A cloak of fire surrounded Kaneko and started to heal her, and got rid of some of her scars she had. After a bit the fire cloak disappeared and Issei closed the grimoire and put it down. He walked back into the kitchen to start serving dinner. Kaneko and Sona were speechless because Issei not only used fire magic but also a high-level healing spell. When could you use fire magic? Asked Sona. I could always use fire magic, it's just it was always weaker than my dark magic until I got my father's grimoire. Now I can harness the full power of my fire magic. Oh, that reminds me, I need to transfer those spells to my grimoire, answered Issei. Issei's grimoire started to float in front of him. He pointed to his father's grimoire, and it started to float. Issei's grimoire then started to flip through its pages until it stopped on a spell. Transfer, said Issei. The two grimoire floated closer together and started to glow. After a couple of minutes the glow died down, and both the grimoire floated towards Issei. He grabbed them both and walked into his basement to put away his father's grimoire. While Issei was in the basement, Sona and Kaneko were talking about some stuff. "Kaneko, why didn't you tell me that Akino attacked you?" asked Sona. "Well, because it wasn't that bad compared to what normally happens to me when I don't listen or stay out with Issei too long. She hasn't been the same since Issei came to the school. Rias used not cared what we did as long as we helped with strays, but after Issei showed up she changed. She became mean, short-tempered," answered Kaneko. Little did the two know Issei was listening and he was not happy, so he decided to have a little chat with Rias. He uses a magic circle to teleport into the orc. Issei walked over to Rias, who was the only one in orc at the time. "Hey Rias, mind telling me why every time Kaneko comes over to my house or whenever I see her she has burns or bruises? And don't say it's from strays, because I've killed every strays in Ko, so tell me the truth, or so help me Lucifer, I'll shove my sword so far up your ass it will come out your mouth," said Issei. "Why do you care how I treat my peerage?" said Rias. "Why do I care? Well, maybe I'm the only family Kaneko has left. Or maybe that I made a promise to her mother before she died to protect her from any harm, and you little girl are a threat to her safety, so you have two choices. You either let Kaneko join my peerage and be safe, or you don't, and I tell your brother what you did to her, and I have proof of it. I have pictures of her scars, bruises and burns, and trust me you won't like what he will do if I do tell him," said Issei. The thought of what her brother would do to her if he found out what she was doing to her peerage scared her, so she was trying to think of way to make her brother believe her instead of Issei, but she couldn't. Her brother knew Issei took care of all the strays in town. "Fine, I don't want that unless piece of trash anyway, but just so you know there's no way for you remove the evil piece inside her. And if you tried she'll die and I'm not going trade with you," said Rias. "Yeah, there is. I could remove the piece with my dark magic since it blocks the magic inside of them, basically returning them to a normal chess piece, and then we can remove it, but that will be extremely painful. Or I could just call in a favor with my good friend Ajuka Beelzebub to remove it for me, and I'd put cameras in here after I found the first burn on Kaneko, so I'll be taking that video and the pictures I have to Surzex," said Issei. Issei then teleported back to his house to enjoy dinner with his fiancée Sona and his little sister. Issei was not a bounty hunter but a mercenary, and the American transfer student is named John, not Eric. We last left off with Issei confronting Rias about the burns and bruises he found on Kaneko. He also told Rice that he's going to tell her brother Surzex about what she does to Kaneko. When he was done, he teleported back to his house and eat dinner. Issei is doing some dishes with Sona and Kaneko in the kitchen. Surzex came out of the circle mad. Issei noticed this and instinctively pushed Sona behind him and told Kaneko to get behind him. Once she gets behind him, he tried to use his grimoire to encase them in a safe sphere of dark magic but couldn't get formed in time before Surzex appeared, and he was angry. Issei knew if it came to blows then he'll lose, but he need to buy enough time for Kaneko and Sona to escape. "How can I help you, uncle?" asked Issei. "You can help me by explaining why you assaulted my sister and tried to rape her," answered Surzex. Issei was shocked at what Surzex said and even more shocked that he believed whoever said it. Surzex noticed the confused look on Issei's face and calmed down a little, but he was still mad. "Why do you look confused?" asked Surzex. "I'm confused because you're accusing me of beating and trying to rape Rias, which I never did, and if I wanted to you would have never found out because she would never escape," answered Issei. "So you're saying that Rias lied to me?" asked Surzex. "Yes, now lower your energy before the two people in my house that is not used to this amount of magic in the air passes out," answered Issei. Surzex, noticing that behind Issei there was Sona and Kaneko having a hard time breathing, so he lowered his magic down and relaxed. Issei did that same. Sona and Kaneko were able to breathe. "Now mind telling me who told you I did that stuff to Rias? Do I can personally go and give them a piece of my mind?" asked Issei. "Rias did. She told me that you came the orc and attacked her and tried to rape her, but you were stopped when Akino came in," answered Issei. "No, that's not what happened at all. I went over to orc and confronted her about the burns and bruises I keep finding on Kaneko. If you don't believe me I can show you the video footage I have," said Issei. "Why do you have cameras in the orc?" asked Surzex. "Yeah, why do you have cameras in orc?" asked Kaneko. "I put them in about a year ago to make sure that Kaneko was safe and being treated good, but as you can see I've been too busy to check the video footage, so whenever I have free time I've been watching the video, and I'm going to let you know now there's a lot of between Rias and Akino," answered Issei. "Can we skip that?" asked Surzex. "Yeah, and you save us a lot of time because nothing but and the occasional meeting happened for about 6 months," answered Issei. As they were watched the video, Surzex saw all the horrible things Rias did to Kaneko, and Kiba. Kaneko also said that it all really started going downhill after Issei arrived at school. Surzex closed the laptop and walked over to Kaneko and bowed and asked for forgiveness for his sister. Kaneko, I'll do anything if you to forgive my sister for how she treated you, said Sir Zex. Anything, asked Kaneko. Anything, answered Sir Zex. I'll forgive her on one condition, that is you take Rias's peerage away until she learns to be nicer to her peerage mates. Also I want Kiba and I and Issei's peerage, said Kaneko. Issei was shocked that Kaneko knew has a peerage, not even Sona knew he had a peerage. Okay, you and Kiba can join Issei's peerage, and Rias was going to lose her peerage after Issei stopped her arranged marriage with Riser Phoenix Me, and her parents decided that she's too immature to have one, said Sir Zex. Kaneko, how did you know that I had a peerage? Only very few know that I have one, asked Issei. Well, whenever you go out for a phone call I've always been earshot, so I just heard it from you when you were talking a person named Azazel. Also, when were you going to tell me you knew my sister, answered Kyuka. Before Issei could answer he got a phone call. Issei grabbed his phone and walked out of the room. Hello? Hey Captain, we need some help with some stray devils, there are a large amount of them. Also we may have a lead on the fallen angel that killed your parents. Okay, I'm on my way. Also we'll have some new people joining the peerage soon. Sweet, I'll have Rebecca send you our location. Issei ended the call and walked into his room to grab some stuff. Sona was back in the kitchen cleaning, and Kaneko was back in her bedroom. Sir Zex left also. Sona, I'm heading out, I won't be home till late, said Issei. Plus, okay, and when you get back I'll fill you in on what Sir Zex said after you left, said Sona. Issei left and started to run to the location he got from his peerage. We last left off with Issei getting a phone call from one of his peerage members asking for help to get rid of a large group of fallen angels and stray devils. After the phone call, Issei walked back into the living room to see Sona and Kaneko finishing the dishes in the kitchen. Kaneko, noticing Issei in the living room, walked over to him. Now you're done with your phone call. How do you know my sister? Asked Kaneko. That's a long story, and I don't have time to tell you that right now. But I can tell you tomorrow when we go to the underworld. Oh, that reminds me, Sona, tell your peerage to meet you at the school tomorrow at about noon, answered Issei. Why and how do you have a peerage? I thought only devils could have them, asked Sona. The reason you need your peerage to meet at the school is that after Kaneko and I get back from the underworld I will be training you, Kaneko, and your peerage for 3 weeks, and the reason I have a peerage is that I'm good friends with the Juka Beelzebub, and also he wanted me to test a new set of evil pieces he created specifically for me, answered Issei. After Issei explained why he had a peerage he walked to the door but was stopped by Kaneko. Where do you think you're going? You still owe me 3 chocolate bars, said Kaneko. I'm going to help my peerage with a mission in Germany, and your chocolates are in your room on your nightstand. I put them there before you got here today, said Issei. Kaneko then ran to her room to get the chocolate, and Issei left to go help his peerage, and Sona is in the living room reading a book until she heard a noise coming from the basement. She walked over to the door and heard the noise again. It sounded like something fell. She walked down the stairs. When she reached the bottom she turned on the light to find a huge library of grimoires. When did Issei find the time to connect all these thoughts? Sona. As she was walking around looking for what fell, then she found it. A blue book was on the ground. She went to go pick it up, but it started to glow and float towards her. She grabbed it and put back on the shelf, and she walked back upstairs only to find the grimoire in front of her again. She tried to put back where she found it 3 more times, but every time she does it just appears back in front of her. She decided to call Issei. Issei is currently fighting a devil until his phone rings. He puts the devil in a headlock and answered his phone. Hello? Hey, I have a question. Have any devils ever had a grimoire before? Yeah, but a very long time ago. Why? Because I heard a noise coming from the basement. I went to check it out, but that's when a blue grimoire flew towards me and is not leaving me alone. Interesting. Well, I'm going to let you go. Don't say any of the spells until I come home. Love you. Bye. Wait, why can't I say any spells in the grimoire? Because every time you talk you're outputting a set amount of magic. It may be a small amount, but for the grimoire it's enough to cast the spell. Now I need to get back to fighting. Love you. Bye. Love you to bye. As Issei hangs up the phone he noticed that the devil he had in a headlock was dead and let his body fall to the ground. He walked into a room that he knew the rest of peerage was. As walked in he saw a pile of bodies. You guys been busy, so did you guys find what we came here to get? Asked Issei. Yeah, we found the Excalibur fragment, said a female voice in front of Issei. Issei looked towards the voice to see his rook Sage. Good, now give me the fragment, and I'll take it to base. Also, why are you wearing a maid outfit? Asked Issei. Here you go, and this was the only thing I had available before this mission. All of other clothes either had blood on them or in the wash, answered Sage. Issei teleports back to base as 2 more of his peerage members appear in the room with Sage, a person in red scale male armor, and an older female that looks like an older version of Kaneko but with black hair. Sage turned around and saw her fellow peerage members John and Kuroka. Where did Captain go? Asked John. He went back to base with the fragment, answered Sage. Are you sure that was Captain and not an imposter like it was last time? Asked Kuroka with a slight smile. OMG, that was one time I was tired and at the time I didn't know what Issei looked like. Now stop teasing me. Where is Rebecca? Asked Sage. Oh, she left to inform the priest that the mission was done because she's the only one that can speak German, answered John. The three left to meet up with Rebecca and head back to base. Time skip 4 hours. It's 3 a.m. and issei is currently walking into his house. He walks in and walks over to the couch and falls asleep, completely oblivious to the circle hole with a 3-foot diameter right above him, and the bat that's watching him through it. The bat leaves and flies back to its master Rias Grimoire, and relays some information to her. We last off with issei falling onto his couch asleep after a long and tiring mission in Germany. As issei's body is asleep, he's awake in his mind. Issei is currently sitting in front of two people, Emma, a knight with red and black armor, and a very muscular man. The three were staring at each other in silence until issei broke the silence. Emma, who is this guy? Asked issei. This guy is Yami Sukahiro. He was the previous and first user of your grimoire, answered Emma. Oh, sorry for being rude. My name is Issei Hayadu, and I'm the current user of the dark magic grimoire, said issei. Yami just stared at issei until he attacked issei with a sword, but issei blocked it with his sword, and a small fight happened between issei and Yami, which turned into a full-on fight. Issei, clearly at a disadvantage in the fight, was doing his best to keep up with Yami. He couldn't even at full power. He could barely keep up. Each time he tries to attack Yami, he just dodged. Come on, is that all you got? Because if it's then you'll never be able to protect the people you care about, said Yami. After hearing what Yami said, issei was distracted, so Yami knocked his sword out of his hand. Issei tried to summon his grimoire, but couldn't he? Yami cut his arm off the slide issei's sword back towards him. Come pick it up and fight. You still got a good arm. Or use your magic to make a new one arm, said Yami. Issei grabbed his sword and tried to form a new arm with his dark magic, but couldn't, so he tried to make one with fire, and it worked. He made a fire sword and went at Yami again, but faster. Yami smiled and charged at issei again. Time skip 1 hour. Issei is on the ground unconscious with his arm missing and cuts and holes all over his body, but still alive. Yami, on the other hand, had 3 small cuts on his shirt. Yami was smiling because issei surpassed his limits and was able to cut him. He snapped his finger, and issei grimoire appeared in front of him and opened to a spell called Darken Cure. Yami used it. A dark purple aura surrounded issei that started to heal him. Issei then wake up in the real world. His grimoire next to him. Issei sat up and noticed that his grimoire had a note from Sona on it. He picked it up and read it. Me and Kaneko went to the underworld. We'll meet you in Surzek's office when you wake up. Also sorry for blowing a hole in our roof. Zoxo, Sona. After reading the note, issei wondered what hole she was talking about until he looked up and saw the hole in question. He sighed and walked over to the wall below the hole and infused some mana into it. The hole repaired itself in a matter of seconds. Thank God I paid more for the self-rebuilding walls, thought issei. Issei went into the kitchen. As he was walking, he was going through his grimoire to see if there was any new spells. As he flipping through the page, he found a spell to enhance his body. He also found a training routine that Yami left for him on one of the empty pages. Issei closed the book and teleported to Surzek's office. When he arrived, he saw Sona and Kaneko talking to Kiba while Rias was glaring at them. Sona noticed issei and walked over to him. Kaneko and Kiba continued to talk to each other. Hey issei, sorry about the hole in the roof. When I was reading the spells in my grimoire, I accidentally said one, and a big water ball formed and crashed through the roof, said Sona. It's fine, it's already fixed, but can I see your grimoire? I need to see which one chose you, asked issei. Sure, but does it matter, answered Sona. Yes, it does matter, because if it's one of the silver grimoires, then Surzek's and I are going to have a serious conversation after this, said issei. Sona hands over her grimoire. When issei looks at the grimoire, the expression on his face changed. He went from a smile to a sad expression, but then changed back to a smile. Issei handed Sona her grimoire. Surzek soon walked after that with the Juka Beelzebub, the creator of the evil pieces. Sorry we took so long, I had some family matter to deal with. Speaking of family, Rias, I summoned you here to tell you that you will lose your peerage, and will not be allowed to leave the underworld until you learn to treat your peerage with respect, said Surzek. What do you mean I treat my peerage with respect, said Rias. Really, the 6 months of footage of you beating and abusing your peerage says otherwise. Now issei, Ajuka, get going, I have a meeting in 2 hours, said Surzek. The two nodded and began. Time skip 1 hour and 58 minutes. Issei just finished removing Kaneko's evil piece from her chest. With Kaneko done, all of Rias's evil piece were gathered into a box and sealed away by Surzek himself. Before Issei left, he walked over to Surzek and said he need to talk to him in his office. The two walked into Surzek's offices to have a conversation about Sona getting a grimoire and some other things. Issei walking into Surzek's office after he removed the evil pieces from Rias and her peerage. After Issei walked into Surzek's office, Rias and Akino left. Angry Sona, Kaneko, and Kita were going to leave until someone appeared in front of them. This person they knew all too well. It was the former SS class stray devil Kuroka. This surprised the three. On orders from my master Issei, I'm here to take you to the compound to train, said Kuroka. She then threw 3 evil pieces at them. The 3 caught them. Why do we need these? asked Sona. As you know that only Peerage members can use the same magic circle to travel somewhere, so while you hold the evil pieces I can teleport us to the compound. Also Kita Chiron, the piece you're holding is the piece you're going to be in Issei's Peerage, said Kuroka. Kuroka snapped her fingers and the group teleported away, back in Surzek's office. So to repeat what you said to understand, Sona is the last surviving member of the Silva clan, and the only evidence you have is her grimoire, asked Surzek. Correct, but also the time frame matches up. The Silva clan firstborn child gets kidnapped at birth, and then the Citri clan suddenly announces that their second daughter was born, answered Issei. Surzek thought about it for a second, and it doesn't make sense because Lady Citri didn't look pregnant at any of the parties she went to, but when the day the kid was kidnapped she suddenly gave birth to a second child. If don't believe me, then how can she have a grimoire? After doing my own digging, she couldn't have one in the Citri clan as a descendant, or somehow related to any devil that could use a grimoire. There's only one way that she could have one, and that is she's somehow a reincarnation of someone that could use a grimoire, but that's impossible because she would have gotten the person's grimoire, said Issei. Okay, so how do you know that she's not a reincarnation? asked Surzek. Because the grimoire she has no wear and tear, unlike mine that has the normal amount of wear and tear for a grimoire made during the Great War, and before you asked, no, there was only one grimoire made in the time between the Great War and now, answered Issei. How would you know that? asked Surzek. Before Issei answered, someone walked into Surzek's offices. This someone had blonde hair and a very punchable face. As he walked inside the room, he was met with a flaming fist to face and was sent flying across the mansion. Issei, before Riser comes back, do you mind telling me why you punched him? asked Surzek. He had a really punchable face, and with all the stuff Sona said that he dosed to his peerage and any female around him, he needed someone to punch him in the face, answered Issei. Riser walked back into the office with his face steaming. How dare you scum lay a hand on my face? I should kill you for that, but who's your master? I'll change them to a raiding game when then kill you after, asked Riser. Oh, I'm not part of anyone's peerage, I'm actually king of my own peerage, and I expect your change to a raiding game would 1 week from today work, answered Issei. Yeah, and if I win I'll kill you and take your peerage, said Riser. And if win your wedding with Rias will called off, said Issei. The two shook hands. Issei turned around to leave, but Riser tried to attack him from behind, but Issei met his Riser's fist with his sword, cutting his arm in the half. The long way Riser grabbed his arm in pain. He teleported away to heal his arm because it wasn't healing on its own. Issei teleports back to his compound to find everyone training, but Kiba Issei knows where he is, so he walked over to the chamber that held the Excalibur fragments. As he reached the door, he sees Kiba trying to grab a fragment, but the fragment rejected him. So you found them? Don't worry, I can't wield any of them either, said Issei. Hearing Issei surprised Kiba because he didn't notice him at all. I don't sneak up on me like that. And why can't you wield any of them? asked Kiba. It's because they're poor copies of the original, and they're super picky. Also be glad that these swords don't like you, because if they did they'd kill you by draining all of your magic in seconds, answered Issei. What, how would you know that these swords are fakes and that they would kill you? asked Kiba. Well, I watched one of them drain an angle of all her magic after picking it up, and I know that they're fake because the real ones are sealed under this very compound, or at least most of them. Some 2 of them were stolen a while ago. Now let's go join the rest and train, answered Issei. The 2 of them joined the rest of the group and started to train. They trained for the next 3 days, but that when someone from Issei pasted came and visit. Plus, we last left off with Issei and Kiba joining everyone in training after Issei tells Kiba that the Excalibur fragments were fake and most of the real ones were sealed under the compound they were standing in. The training for the raiding game was going well, but that's until the barrier around the compound is disabled. When this happened, Issei stopped in his tracks only to be punched in the stomach full forces by John. Once the punch landed, Issei spat out blood and sat on the ground and smiled. That was a good punch, said Issei. Thanks. Why did you stop? You could have easily dodged that punch and countered, asked John. That doesn't matter right now. The only this that matters is that you take everyone to the underground bunker right now, said Issei. Issei didn't wait for John to leave, and he used his balance breaker and charged at the person that took down the barrier around the compound. As he was running, he got closer to the person. He stopped in his tracks because the person that he's looking at should be dead. This person had blonde hair and wearing a white shirt with a black jacket over it. What's the matter, Captain? You're not happy seeing me alive and well, said the mystery man. Issei didn't say anything. All he did was use hockey on the arms of his balance breaker. Issei was not smiling. Hockey, you're still using the weak-ass spells Zoro taught you. I hope you got stronger in the last 2 years, said the mystery man. Sanji, I have one question before I fight you. Are Zoro and Jen alive? asked Issei. Yes, they are, but why would you care? You left us in Asgard to die. You know we believed that you would come save us, but looks like you replaced us, answered Sanji. That's not true. I raided Asgard to save you guys, but all I found was your dead bodies. I could never replace you guys, said Issei. Sanji didn't say anything and charged at Issei, ready to take his head off. When he kicked, Issei blocked the attack. The fight went on for an hour. With each clash Issei was taking more damage as Sanji was healing from any injury until Sanji kicked Issei's arm so hard that it was ripped at the elbow. Sanji then kicked Issei's head clean off his shoulders. Issei then suddenly woke up from a deep sleep. He was completely covered in sweat. His arms were shaking. Issei got out of bed and walked out of his house to check the barrier around the compound only to find it's completely intact. He walked back to his house. As he's walking he was trying to clear his head but couldn't, so he decided to train, and he trained for several hours until John came out with a cup of coffee. He saw Issei standing in the middle of the training yard with a very large wooden sword, like this but twice as big. John walked over to Issei to see him covered in the sweat, and his hands were bleeding. Issei was asleep on his feet. John grabbed the sword out of Issei's hands only for the sword to completely take him to the ground with how heavy the wooden sword was. "Holly, Issei, you really couldn't sleep. This sword is heavier than any other time I saw you out here," said John. Issei fell to the ground still asleep. John shook his head and picked up Issei and walked back to Issei's house. Time skip 1 hour. It's 9 a.m. John is waiting in the training ground for everyone to show up. Once they showed up, John stood up. "Well, training is cancelled today. Issei had a rough night last night, so he's still asleep. Have a good rest day. See you all tomorrow," said John. John walked away from everyone. This confused everyone besides Issei's Peerage. Sona tried to walk over to John and asked him something, but he just disappeared. Sona just walked back to the apartment Issei gave her. She was wondering why Issei didn't go and talk to her about what's he going through. As Sona was stuck in her own thoughts, she heard a voice in her head. "Don't beat yourself too much, child. He has his reason for not telling you what's going on," said an unknown voice. Sona looked around to find the source of the noise but didn't see anything. Sona closed her eyes to start clearing her mind. When she opened them again, she was standing in front of a large lake and giant blue leviathan. "Oh, hello, child. I didn't think you'd be strong enough to meet me here," said the leviathan. Sona tried to talk but couldn't. She tried to move but couldn't. This scared her. The leviathan moved closer to her. This scared her even more, but she couldn't do anything. The leviathan backed away from Sona. "It seems that you're not really here, you're just dreaming, so I'm going to tell you this. Get stronger so we can talk for real. Oh, before I forget, let Issei know that the light user will show themselves soon," said the leviathan. Sona then woke up. She looked around to see her glasses were frozen solid, then they shattered. Once that happened, Sona's magic started to become unstable. She tried to regain control of her magic but couldn't. A large ball of water engulfed her and destroyed the house she was staying in. Issei felt the sudden change in magic. He quickly woke up and ran out of his house only to see a large ball of water sitting above the compound. Issei knew that this was going to happen one day, but not this soon. He quickly summoned Enma and jumped towards the ball with one slash. Issei cut the ball in half, leaving Sona unharmed, but Issei put too much power into his jump, so he went flying away from Sona. John grabbed them both from the air. John landed on the ground. He let go of Issei. "Issei, mind telling me why Sona's magic went haywire and almost killed her?" asked John. Issei didn't answer him because he was charging up a large fire attack to evaporate the water. After his attack was fully charged, he shot a large fire ball from his hand that completely engulfing the water ball and evaporating it. Issei took a deep breath and walked over to John and Sona. Issei grabbed Sona and set her down on the grass. Then he walked back to John and explained why Sona's magic went out of control. After he was done, Issei walked back to Sona. After a bit she woke up. She sat up and saw Issei. Then she told him everything that the leviathan said. Issei looked worried. After hearing that the light user will show themselves soon, Issei helped Sona to a bed so she can rest. After Sona fell asleep, Issei left the room to come up with a better training plan for Sona and for himself to be ready for the light use. Issei is walking through the compound making a plan for the last 4 days of training and his plan for the light user. As he thinking, he runs into Sona. Issei stopped and helped her up. "Sorry Sona, I was stuck in thought. Also, why you are up? Your body is still trying to get used to all the new mana in your system," asked Issei. "If I stay in bed any longer I'll go crazy, so I decide to take a walk. Also, mind explaining to me what happened to my magic and why it tried to kill me," said Sona. "That's simple. When your glasses broke, all the mana that was stored inside was released, and all the mana rushed back into your body, flooding your mana veins with 14 years of stored mana," said Issei. Sona looked at Issei like he had a third eye. "Are you saying when that the glasses that I got at 5 years old have been draining me of mana? And how do you even know that my glasses were taking my mana?" asked Sona. "Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, so please finish your walk and go lay back down. And whatever you do, not use magic of any kind until tomorrow, because if you'll lose the ability to use magic forever. And for how I know is that my father was the one to make those glasses for those how had too much mana, but they got stolen from our house before. My father could show Sir Zex, answered Issei. How do you know that those were the same thing, asked Sona. There was a tracker in the frames so we knew where they were, but we couldn't do anything to get them back without having to either accuse your family for stealing it, which wouldn't have went well, or try and steal it back, but everyone that could have done it died a week later in a large attack from a large group of all three factions. Oh, before I forget, do not use any magic right now, because if you do you might blow off the body part you're using to cast the spell, said Issei. What do you mean, what's wrong with my magic, and how do you know all this? Because, asked Sona. Due to what happened this morning, your mana veins are damaged so bad that it will take you 3 days to be able to use your magic at its full power. And to answer your second question, come over to my house tonight, then I'll tell you, but not right now go enjoy your walk, but please rest, answered Issei. Sona agreed meet Issei at his house and also agreed to not use magic until she's better. Then she continued on her walk while Issei walked over to the main building of the compound, a large house. As he walked inside, Issei was thinking of a way to speed up everyone's training, but he can't think of any way until Issei's grimoire started to float. Issei grabbed it, and it opened to a spell Issei didn't know he had. After reading what the spell can do, Issei got to work mastering the spell. It took him all night, but he mastered the spell to the point he won't kill everyone and they can do training, but it will drain him a lot. Time skip 4 a.m. John wakes up to a text on his phone from Issei, and it read, "Hey, training for the next 4 days is going to be done at the big house. Please take everyone there. And when you arrive, knock on the door 3 times, then walk in with everyone. Make sure everyone is reinforcing them to leave with mana skin. If they don't, they will die when they enter. And make sure you bring a lot of water, please, and thank you." John just shook his head, and he went off to do his normal morning routine of making coffee for everyone in the compound, which takes 30 minutes. Then he makes food for everyone, that takes 1 hour, and for the last 30 minutes before 6 a.m. John drinks 3 cups of coffee. As he's finishing his last cup of coffee, he is walking over to the training ground to wait for everyone. As he's waiting, he got another text from Issei which said, "Change of plans, I'll just teleport everyone into the new training ground. Also tell everyone that they don't need to use mana skin. I lowered the magic output, so you guys are fine." What do you mean you turned down the magic output? Issei, where are you taking used to train the ing time chamber? Issei, did you make the time chamber from Dragon Ball Super? Sort of, but not really. I'll explain when I teleport you guy here, and I'll be doing that in about 20 minutes, so be ready. Also, you're going to be my training partner for the next 4 days. Get ready. After reading the text, John put his phone away and started to gather everyone in one group. After he got the last person from Sona's Peerage, John sends a text to Issei letting him know where they're at and that they're ready. A magic circle appeared under the group. After a second, they all disappeared and reappeared right in front of Issei. "Welcome everyone to my Twilight Zone. Here I control everything like time. This is where everyone is going to train for the next 4 days. Oh, before I forget, John, you asked me if I made the time chamber. I did somewhat. You see here, a day outside is a week in here. Does anyone have any questions?" said Issei. John raised his hand. "Yeah, I have a question. I have 2 questions. The first one is where are we, and the second on is how you even make this place last. I knew you didn't know time magic," asked John. "Oh yeah, well, we are about 3 miles below the big house, and I used a spell called Twilight Zone. It's a domain spell that lets me control everything around me, and that includes time, but it drains me a lot, so we're going to be here for 2 days, and the other 2 days is rest," said Issei. John looked stunned for a second but shook his head and began the training for everyone. Then he and Issei walked deeper into the room to start their training. Thanks for watching this video. You really enjoy this video. Like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow Colin7781 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.